Hey, good morning, folks. We're going to do some artwork today. Give me a second here to check my signal, make sure everything's coming through clear. I got to post the social medias. And then we're going to get to work here for a little bit. So just checking in on my channel here real fast to see if the volume's good or whatever. See if the volume... Yep, sounds like it's pretty good to me. Let's drop that down so it doesn't get in the way of the conversations. Clicking on that, clicking over, just doing some social media posts that you would normally have when a live stream does a countdown, but I'm almost done with it. So let me just entertain you here real quick with my intro, and then we'll get right into doing artwork. So hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online, and I create content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We're creating an adventure here called Crystals of Mabar. You can see the cover here on screen, which we painted back around episode 40 of this stream. I've been a DM since 1987, a freelance illustrator since 1999, an Eberron enthusiast since 2004, and creating content for D&D 5e on the DMsGuild since 2018. But I've not yet done anything specifically for Eberron or published an adventure, and this is... This particular stream right now that we're doing, we have multiple streams. I stream 9 times per week, but this one here in the morning is doing the artwork for that adventure. The adventure is complete. Let me just finish this out. If you think today is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. Here's a full playlist of all 486 episodes if you want to dive on through that. Making the book cover was around episode 40 of that. You can check that out. And the backlog of all the maps, tokens, and page art that we've been creating for this adventure that we'll be publishing on the DMsGuild when complete. Here's a bunch of other books that I've created on the DMsGuild, all of which are similarly produced and have free previews for you to explore. If you think they're cool, consider making a purchase to let me know that you like it and that I should make more of the same. So we're making spot art right now. Here we have the village, the aftermath of undead attack, the office and apartment for the mayor being strewn about, and we're adding in some spot art for just like some modest a modest treasure that the village has as basically as their funding to be able to trade not only goods but just have some loot on hand. So you know, communities need money. So we're going to, let's see, drop this down. Right now we're just doing the sketch art, and now we're starting to lock in from sketching into more, we're cleaning up the structure of all the individual items, and then once we finish the line art, we'll drop in color. We'll blend the two together. You've seen me do this hundreds of times at this point. If you've been a fan of the stream over time, God bless folks that are. Yeah, well, when this adventure is done, we've got more books that we've been building on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We do game design in general. Again, I've been using the 5e game engine. It is currently my absolute favorite engine. There, good. So I've been utilizing the 5e game engine. I started. Like I said, I've been a DM since 1987. Basically, using a box set like the beginner's box set, the red box, as well as the first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then I started. I was given I inherited, quote unquote, a slew of books from my cousins who stopped playing D&D as they got older. So when I was 12, I got a bunch of hand-me-down D&D books without much explanation other than this is a cool game, check it out. And I did, and I fell in love with it immediately. And I started using lawnmower money to purchase additional books, because this was back like when Unearthed Arcana I was given a copy of the original Unearthed Arcana, but I started putting all my lawnmower money into like the Dungeoneer Survival Guide, the Wilderness Survival Guide, the Forgotten Realms box sets. Basically, every 3 weeks of weekend labor, I could afford a new book, and that is where all my money went. Basically, from age 12 to 16, went strictly into buying D&D books. By the time I got to college at 18, I had accumulated enough second edition content that I didn't like. I had most of the Planescape books, Spelljammer, a lot of Spelljammer books, a lot of Dark Sun books. At that point, I didn't feel I was a poor college kid, so I wasn't buying more books at that point. But I'd accumulated a large enough library that I didn't really need to anymore. And then after college, by the time the year 2000 came around, 3rd edition came out with WotC taking the helm. And with me being out of college with a decent job, I was able to begin purchasing books again. And that became me and my friends in our 20s. Our primary hobbies were drinking and playing D&D, often at the same time. Yeah, that was good enough. Let's go with money bags. Back here. We do the initial sketch, and then we do a better line art version of the sketches, so that it's perspective and blah de blah makes sense. And then once that process is done, we get into doing the actual line, the actual color filling. And then once the color's filled in, like comic book style, I'll fill in the line art. I'll do the line art, then I'll backfill the color underneath the line art. And then I'll merge the line art to the color, and then do texture and detail work on top of it. So, hey Fox, it's good to see you, my guy. It is a fantastic build. It's Tuesday. I was born on a Tuesday, so Tuesdays are my favorite day of the week. When I got out of college, I got a job at a local restaurant. I initially went to school to get away from my parents because I lived on a ranch, and I basically was stuck because I can't drive because I'm blind. I couldn't leave the ranch unless somebody basically took me there, took me out of there, because it was miles away from civilization. So I was pretty much stuck on the farm until somebody would pick me up, or like my sister or my parents would take me away from the farm to go to town. And so I went to college to figure out how to live on my own. And it was a very sheltered, dormitories and stuff like that, and being in my 20s, it was a very sheltered environment. But it was a step up where I didn't have to be under anybody's thumb, or I could set my own schedule instead of time to take care of the horse shit. So, but once I got over it and figured out what was going on, I decided to get into a culinary school. So I did that, and I hated it. I loved cooking, but I hated the culture, and I hated the quest for titles, and the only way to climb was to know the right people and all that hobby-nobby stuff that I just despised. So I decided to get out of the out of the education, but I'd stuck around for about a year and a half. So I did like maybe 2 years of university, and then I went into trade school. And then after about a year of trade school, I ditched that and just went into the real world. But I had accumulated enough skill as a cook to land a prep cook job at a local Italian restaurant. It was my favorite restaurant in town. It was called the Pasta Factory. And so I became their morning cook. I did their inventory. I did receivables, which is like when the trucks dump all the stuff, I would put it into position in the where it was kept, and kept inventory with it. And I also did all the prepping, like I'd shuck 10 pounds worth of shrimp every day, and I'd cook like 20 gallons worth of pasta sauce every day. I would bread 10 pounds worth of eggplants every day. I would chop 10 pounds worth of mushrooms every day. Like, I'd make marsala sauce, all the things that you're supposed to do to prepare for a day of fooding at an Italian restaurant. I also made cheesecakes and other types of desserts, and I would work that job basically from 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. and then I'd have the rest of my day off. But Tuesdays and Sundays were my two set days that I wasn't there. So like Tuesday was my day off. Sunday was my day off. But Tuesday, I was born on a Tuesday, so I always strived to get Tuesdays as an off day for me, so I could just be whatever I want and do whatever I please. But that was a really great time in my life. I really, really, really enjoyed that job. That was a lot of fun. A 20-something-year-old working at a restaurant, I got fed as a part of it. So the one meal I would have a day was provided to me by the restaurant. So I'd go in hungry, I'd stay hungry until the end of my shift, and then I'd have a meal, and that'd be in the afternoon. And then I was free. Most of my friends were still in college at that point, so I'd kick down to campus at the university, and flirt, fart, and have fun until everyone was done with their classes, and then we'd go off and do whatever it is that we would do. Good times. Freaking good times, man. That's my Tuesday story. You made me very hungry. It's not cutting it. If it makes you feel any better, I've got some chicken soup and bread waiting for me for like around 2 o'clock today. So I had such horrible man. I had no sleep Sunday night, like virtually no sleep. So streaming yesterday, I just felt dead on my feet, and I just passed the fuck out. Just absolutely just dropped, and actually ended up waking up early today and got some writing done. So we're gonna make here. I'm gonna grab this and bring this in a little bit. It's too big. Yeah, more like that. leather bags, like thick leather bags, like a Hennessy, like a Hennessy whiskey, leather burlap sack basically holds structure actually fairly well. There's Crown Royale has. I'm using whiskey bottle bags because that's the traditional dice bag that you use in D&D. It's the classic dice bag is a black cloth Royal Crown whiskey bag, and or sack. It's just cloth with a drawstring, and it's perfect. But I believe it's Hennessy has a leather pouch. I think I'm guessing it's gray material. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but it's a much heavier material, so it actually holds its own shape, even when the dice are dumped out. Like it sags a bit, but largely it's able to hold its own form in place. So, but it's also very, it's a heavy leather. So it's almost like, it's like 5-gauge leather. So it's thick enough to hold its own form without just immediately collapsing when you let go of it. So that's generally what I'm using as material reference here. So even though this pouch has like coins that aren't necessarily filling it, flumping it like this on a table, it would still have this larger shape. Let's actually drop it down a little bit like that. And then I can make that a little bit larger. There. So, yeah, it's the OG, man. It's the original dice bag. You can't front on that. I haven't. I actually have my current set of dice. I actually keep in a shaving kit box. Because it's large enough to hold a crap ton of dice, and I have one end torn off so that it's easy entry. But when I'm playing on virtual tabletop, I'll line them up next to each other like this, so that I can grab a die from here and then throw it into the open end, and I have the back of this as a backstop. So here you go, like there. So this is where I toss my dice, and this is how I hold them, orient them towards me. So like when I'm doing Oracle dice, yes/no questions, I'll use 2 dice in a box, and then I'll roll them, and whichever one ends up closer to me is the question, and the one that's further away from me is the answer. And if they land lopsided, it'll be whichever one is to the left or closer to my dice is the question, and the other one on the right is the answer. And by question and answer, I've talked about Oracle dice before. I'll set, it's a yes or no question, and the question die determines how likely the answer is to be yes, and then the answer die confirms it. So you either match or exceed the number of the answer has to match or exceed the question to be yes. So if I roll a 1 for the like if the question is will I publish this adventure before I die, and if I roll the die, I got a 1. I literally got a 1 on that. So God bless. A 1 means that on a 1 out of 6, or a 1 or above on a 6, I will finish the adventure before I die. And then I roll my answer die, and in this I got a 6. I shit you not, I got a 6. So the question is how unlikely is it for this thing to be yes? And if the answer is a 1, if the question is a 1, it's guaranteed to be a yes. And a 6 means it's almost impossible that it's true. And then when you roll your answer, you get your relative, from 1 to 6, you get your relative answer. So if the answer is a 1, it means it's nearly impossible that this is going to work out, but it does. And if the answer is a 6, it means it was absolutely guaranteed that this would happen. So when you roll a 1 as your question, it's guaranteed that the answer is going to be a yes. And then when the answer is a 6, it means not only is it guaranteed to be a yes, it is absolutely the best result that you could possibly imagine. So like if the question was a 6, it's unlikely that this is ever going to happen. It's nearly impossible. And if I rolled a 1, it is not only was it almost impossible, but it's the absolute worst circumstances that could happen. So if the question and the answer are both a 1, it was almost impossible that would happen. But despite all the things going wrong, it still worked out. As opposed to a 6 and a 6, which is this is almost impossible that it's going to happen. But despite everything against you, I'm sorry, with the 6, despite it almost being impossible, it worked out anyway. If the answer was a 1 and 1, not only was it ordained that would happen, that was it. If I roll a 1 as the question, it's guaranteed to happen, even despite itself. But if I only rolled a 1, despite how much you fucked up, it still pulled off. If I had like a 1 and a 6, it would be, this is almost impossible to bungle, but you did it perfectly. You didn't need to, but you did it perfectly. And if it's a 6 and a 6, it's almost impossible, and you did everything possible, but it still almost didn't work out. So any variables in between, like if the question is a 3 and the result is a 2, it was kind of maybe this would have worked out, but you didn't quite pull it off. So, and this is all, I mean, you could run a game that way, but this is just Oracle, where like me as a DM, I'm answering questions that I don't know the answer to. When I improv most of my games, like actual live games that I play, not playtesting stuff, but like when I'm actually running a game and it's an active campaign and I'm thinking about like history and the future and stuff of like, you know, what's going to happen with this. And I can't prepare for everything, right? You prepare just enough so that you can BS the rest. You create a framework. All you really need to know is like the location, who's involved, what's their motives, what's their complications, and then you throw the characters into it and muck it up. And so characters mucking stuff up is where your variables come in. So when they ask a question, it's like, hey, what's the architecture like in this place? Or like, what's this person's opinion about figs or whatever? If it's something that I can't just BS an answer for, I'll ask the Oracle dice. And then that's how I'll determine my answer. How likely is that this is a yes? And then that's the 1d6. And then the answer is, despite that being how likely it is, did it pull off? So anyway, that's there you go. That's my bit. It's random here. My girlfriend's, oh, that's awesome. Lots of girl kept the bag. Oh yeah, right on. Yeah. Deck of card works too, because it's, you know, like 1 to 13. And higher card is a yes, lower card is a no. I mean, there's 1,000 ways you can do Oracle. But it's just an easy system. It's just an easy system to use. You could build an entire game off of 2d6 Oracle, where the DM rolls 1 die or determines what the difficulty is, and then the player rolls the answer die to see if they succeeded or not. But that's like really, like, we want more rules than that in the game, because that's too chaos oriented. Like, you could have like a character that's skilled with gun shooting and like maybe get a +1 to your die roll. That feels good. It's good enough. We'll be able to put some coins spilling out of that. These iron bars are starting to look a little rough in comparison, so we'll probably do another go over on those. What is there? Yeah, I know this is duplicated. We just had to add an extra line. I didn't update it. Platinum, gold pieces, silver pieces. So we have platinum pieces, gold pieces, silver pieces, and copper pieces. So 4 bags, right. I run a game design stream where I'm building new mechanics either for characters or DMs to run games. I do that on Monday nights, like last night. I actually fell asleep a couple times during the stream. That's how exhausted I was. I'd wake up and I'd have like a bunch of Z's on the screen. It's like, shit, I just fell asleep. It was a train wreck of a day, but we were working on the Scion. We were converting the Scion into spell points, and despite myself, I was able to at least get an initial translation of the subclasses and disciplines. But during that process, I realized that I don't need to focus on the dice as a resource. I can just treat them the same as I treat power dice, where you spend mana, and depending on what level you are, that's the die that you roll. So I can today, when we do our lunch stream, which will be like probably around 2:30 today. 2:30 Seattle time. Sorry, it's 7 o'clock here it's 7 o'clock here in Seattle right now. So in about 7.5 hours, we'll be back on to do our game design stream, and I have the spell point scaffold for the Scion built. That's in the playtest document that I share. And all the subclasses and disciplines are there. But now that we can actually move forward with decoupling the dice as a resource and instead just be a variable. So it's like spend X mana and roll your energy die and add the result to blah. And it's very similar to how the power dice work for the martial power system that I have, which to me just makes the Scion that much more of an interesting design space to gish into. Like I've been saying that, I think that the Scion would have been better framed as like a full caster, like the Warlock is a half caster, the Monk is a martial, and the Scion is like a full caster. And by that I just mean that like the amount of like the Warlock has its Pact mana, which comes back on a short rest, and it has its Mystic Arcanum points, which come back on a long rest once you get to level 11. And the Monk has its focus points. I really hope that after this playtest they change the name of the energy dice to focus dice. But just to bond those two together even more. But yeah, so the Warlock has temporary hit point, has short rest resources and long rest resources, both in the form of mana. The Monk only has short rest mana, and the Scion has long rest mana. So you get you get the 80 points of mana over the course of 20 levels, like a full caster does. But you also have all these little boost effects, like spend a point of mana, add a die roll. And it caps, it's very strict about capping how much you can boost an effect. And I like that. They have a ton of mana, so you have to throttle back on how effectively they can use that mana, otherwise they'll overwhelm the marshals. So like while martial characters can use, like you can spend 3 mana and roll 3 dice and keep the best result. That's a good system that can be that can be utilized by full casters as well, because they have this huge mana pool, like 80 mana versus 20. Like they can burst the hell out of stuff. But casting a 6th level spell costs 6 points. So if you're going to cast a 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spell, that's 30 points of mana out of an 80 points over the course of 20 levels. So by the time you get to 11th level, you've got 40 points of mana already that you're spending on up to 5th level. 10th level you've got 40 mana that you're spending on up to 5th level spells, and then at 11th level you get your 6th level spell slot, and then it continues to ascend, but they become more and more expensive. So even though from level 11 through 20 you'll get an extra 40 points, virtually all of that mana is going to be spent on your high level spells that you can cast, that you have. You can only cast like basically once per day each. But it eats half of your mana budget. So if you don't care about casting high-level spells, full casters have a ton of mana that they can throw around on 1st through 5th level spells. And then if you start adding in effects like spend a point, roll a die, add it to the results, that gets into a very bard-like space where you're burning mana for extra inspiration dice to roll, which is how we have the mana system set up. What's up? Looks like I'm missing stuff. Dude, I use Oracle. Right. Hey, what's up, Fernando? It's good to see you, my guy. That looks good. Actually, I'm gonna flatten this out a bit. Put a drawstring here. Like that. Twine drawstring there. There we go. Here. The cleaner I make the line art, the easier it is for me to color. I have a tendency to want to shortcut the line art, rationalizing, I'll just take care of it when it'll just fold into the color, it'll be fine. But whenever I do that, it always ends up being more difficult for me to resolve blending the color into the line art because the lines aren't clean. So that is a lesson that I have learned repeatedly in the past that I am attempting to honor right now. Let's make this like that. Here. I love the journal. The journal has some basic information about the timing involved with stuff in the adventure, and people that observe that spend time studying the journal will pick up that timing is coinciding with the moon Sepphoris, which is Sepphoris. Which is the moon that is associated to the plane of Mabar, and it has a 46-day cycle. And the events of the adventure are coinciding with the phases of the moon. So by the time the team gets there, it's like maybe there could be anywhere from like D4 plus 2 days until the cycle completes, the 46-day cycle completes, and that's the duration of time of the ritual needed to permanize the manifest zone that connects to the plane of Mabar, which is a ridiculously long amount of time. The artifact, the Eye of Mabar, that helps fuel the ritual. Basically, as an artifact, it is if you're performing the ritual, it will sustain you. You don't need to sleep. It's basically converting you into an extraplanar creature during the process. But you don't need to sleep. You don't need to eat. You don't need to drink. You won't take any fatigue or exhaustion. You don't take any exhaustion from not doing those things while you're performing the ritual. But it takes hit dice from you. So it makes you pay for the sustain by eating your hit dice. If you're a large enough CR creature, you'll have the hit dice to spare. But it's one hit die per day that it's going to eat. So that's 46 hit dice that it needs, and most NPCs don't sport 46 hit dice. So what you end up doing is you have to sacrifice other creatures' hit dice to the ritual. So they've been kidnapping villagers and basically sacrificing them for hit dice. And you know, that's troublesome. Well, I'm trying to get this resolved here. But the journal also it doesn't go into the details specifically, but if you, in the process of studying the book, if you sit down and spend a day and just absorb the information, and you make a check, depending on how well you do and what proficiencies you have, you can basically assess the financial stability of the community. And if you roll, you only need to roll a 15 or higher, but if you do, it's like we can, if we utilize our resource, like if you assess the place, like, you know, if we wanted to make this a thriving community, it has the resources and capability of doing so, determined by the lifestyles. Like it's providing a modest lifestyle to people currently. Oh, sorry, a poor lifestyle for people currently, but it can provide a comfortable lifestyle if managed properly. So if somebody were to take over the region as a bastion, then you'd be able to build economic wealth for the community and make it a central hub for you to have other adventures, which is the adventure is designed to set up. And that's part of Appendix C, expanding on the adventure in the campaign. It lets you take because you're like 8th, 9th level when you you're 7th or 8th level when you take on the adventure, and depending on how long and how much of the content you use could end at 9th level. And so that's not even halfway through your character's career yet. So, and there's tons of horrible high level stuff that can happen in Karnath and like the Talenta Plains to the south, and if your characters decide to invest in the area. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like that. Let's clean this up. It could become a hub for your campaign. And it's not so crazy far away that you could get into like delving for scrap missions in the manifest zone if you wanted to, or take on the tribes of the Talenta Plains. There's a lot of fun options. There we go. That doesn't look so bad. Let's fix this. What's up? Jesus Christ. Yeah, great question, Felix. We rolled the Oracle dice earlier, and the Oracle dice say that I'll publish the adventure before I die. But I didn't ask it specifically how close to dying I'm going to be. I would love for this thing to be done and published by September, and it's theoretically possible that I can. But we're already in June, so all of June, July, August, September, maybe 4 months. I don't have a ton of illustrations left in the book. A lot of it is map, and I'm trying to sort all that stuff out. There's a couple pages that were bothering me that I had to redesign to make work properly, but I'm damn near out of things to correct. So my off-screen time is beginning to become map. Like a lot of these pages, the only illustrations on the page is room maps or like region maps, and virtually all of that. I think there might be one or two maps that like random encounter maps or something that I need to build. There might be a couple. I haven't found them yet. I think there's a couple stray pieces. But otherwise, the maps are all done. So that means that like of the 100 pages of this adventure, We're on page 21 now. And at the back, most of the illustrations that we still need to do are basically at the back end of the book, which we're working our way forward towards. But so like page 80 to 100 has like maybe 16 illustrations that we need to do. And if I can finish one of these illustrations per week, I'll be on schedule to June, July, August. Yeah, I'll be able to finish it by September. I'm willing to accept defeat with publishing in November, but if I can get it done by September, I'm going to be on the timeline that I wanted to be for all the other books that I'm doing. So I should have, like, I had to do some page revisions in the third act because they just weren't folding together. Like the information wasn't flowing properly. So I had to redesign how some of the pages were organized, and that's difficult work for me. It doesn't come naturally to me. So there's a lot of gnashing of teeth and pushing text around and like, do I need to reword this so that it fits in this space better now? And all that sort of yakety schmackety, but virtually all of that is done. So that probably means by next week, this weekend specifically, I intend to break down the maps in Act 2, the cemetery, the flooded fort, and the gatehouse. Those are maps that are done already. Now I just have to break them into little pieces and set them inside their individual parts. There's some diagrams that we'll need to do, and then of course like I need to make an illustration of Aether Academy, for example, because the Aether Academy plot hook, there's a hole in the page that needs to be filled with an illustration where it's talking about Aether Academy. So that would be the natural place to put an Aether Academy picture. There's not a lot of reference material for the Academy, so I'm a little intimidated by that, but we'll figure it out. Like the next section is the Carnwood Forest. There's like 3 maps and 1 illustration, and the illustration is just going to be a forest. So, because, Carnwood. So I get to Bob Ross that. So once we finish this illustration that we're working on right now, I'm going to just basically be able to do a Bob Ross painting for the book, which is always a victory for me. I love Bob Ross paintings. Love reproducing them. Love being able to paint them. It is an absolute pride and joy for me to do that. So that is something I'm looking forward to. And forests don't take a lot to finish, so we'll knock that down. The cemetery is almost all just map. The flooded fort, map. Gatehouse, map. And then we'll get into the underground facility, which is Act 3. And yeah, that too, almost all map. A couple diagrams like for doors and stuff like that. But the vast majority of the illustrations is going to just be maps that were already done. We just have to rearrange them, like stuff like this, like taking this portion of the map and breaking it down into this vignette piece so that it fits on the page where we're talking about it. Like, this is what I mean by map work. Like, when we did this, it took maybe 20 minutes for us to suss that out. So I can knock that stuff down pretty good. So I'm focusing most of my screen time currently on doing actual illustration like this, because it's more fun and it's a creative endeavor. And doing maps and stuff like this, it's more what's the word I'm looking for? It's graphic design work, and that design work is kind of like editing. It requires my concentration, and when I'm concentrating on something, I don't have the same level of freedom and conversation that I have when I'm just illustrating like this. So I try to spend the majority of my time in illustration while I'm doing a stream like this in the morning, and focusing my off-screen time into the more dedicated design work. So yeah, hoping for September. Mostly because there's so many other books that I want to build. I'm obligated to get this one done, because there's other people that are invested. Andy Healy, who helped me write it, and Stuart Braz, who was my proofreader and editor, the initial drafts, and also helped me organize the thing. Stuart does really, really good editing work. Like technical editing and structure editing. He's really, really good about being able to build things out smart. He helped me reorganize how the adventure just flows, which added a couple months worth of work to the project, but was absolutely fucking worth it. It probably shouldn't take as long as it has for me to make this thing, but it's more than I call it an adventure, but it's kind of more like a mini campaign. Like, this is an environment that your characters can interact with, take control of, and take ownership of if they want. And I know it's another super niche example, but there's not a lot of Eberron stuff out there. So I think that unto itself is useful, but also being able to frame this around, hey, if you want to run a campaign in Karrnath, here's something that you can use to anchor your characters there, and to be able to build on it and get involved in the nation. And I think that's a since you don't have like a lot of, like, the only books you have for Eberron is the campaign, and they don't dive deep into each area. There's a lot of DMsGuild stuff that like really dives into like the politics and like the who's who and locations of, like, say, Karrnath, but doesn't really provide you a vehicle like, here's how you can establish and set up that your characters are running there. And that's partial of what this thing is trying to do. It's like, look at this holistically. Like, if you run this, like, what can you actually do with it? What will it do for your campaign? Where can you take it? How can you lock your characters into giving a damn about it? How can you, like, build ownership out of this? So it's a huge lift, and I don't think I'm going to do anything this intense for an adventure for a while. I might do some like one-page dungeons, like little 5-room dungeon things that are easier, but I doubt I would do it for 5th edition. I would probably do a more system-like thing, like the Guild Delvers RPG that I'm slowly developing with my home table. I play D&D on Wednesdays, and I have a team of 6 people in rotation, and we've been building a system light, on the fly, super easy to use role-playing game that has a lot of mechanical depth, but allows for a ton of improvisation and not a lot of statistics. Very, very system light. So it's easy to just teach, pick up, and run with. And it's been coming along really nicely. I'm really happy with it. And building adventures for that is ridiculously easy. Because it basically works on a scale, like kind of like Numenera. It works on a scale of 1 to 10, and each monsters, traps, environmental hazards, social encounters, it all works off of the same, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is this? Not for your characters, but just for reality in general, using the same bounded accuracy curve that was established in 5e, from basically on a scale of 1 to 10, which breaks down basically into a scale of 3 to 30. So on a scale of 1 to 10, multiply that by 3, and that's the difficulty that you have to roll. So a difficulty task of 10 is really difficult to do, especially if you have a game system that doesn't give you a ton of additional, like 5e gives you a ton of resources and bonuses and means of being able to spike your D20 tests, so that by the time you're like 13th level, hitting a difficulty 30 on something you're focused on is plausible. Not guaranteed, but plausible. But with this system, it is on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10, rolling a DC 30 is very difficult. So it paces really well, but when you're designing an adventure for that style of a game, it's like, yeah, there's robot minions that are going to prevent you from getting into a room. They're a difficulty of 6. So when you're interacting with them or trying to destroy them, you're gonna have to roll an 18 or better to be able to do anything against them. And the way that the game engine works is that the result of your die not only informs whether it either rewards you with success or it punishes you with failure. So your failure isn't just, oh, I failed my die roll, let's wait for the DM to take a turn to see what happens. It's like, no, if you're in combat and your difficulty is 6, so you have to roll an 18, and you only rolled, like, say, an 11, then it'd be 18 minus 11 equals 7. 7 divided by 3 is 2 point something. So that's 3 degrees of failure, which means not only did you not damage that thing, it retaliates and deals 3 points of damage to you. And like if your character has on a scale like you have 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 hit points. So like a top level character has 30 hit points. And you're dealing with stuff like on a difficulty of like 8 to 10. So if you roll that difficulty, that almost impossible thing, that DC 30, if you only roll a 15, that's 5 points of damage that you're going to take in combat. And so I don't have opportunity, like I don't do reactions and opportunity attacks. It's, oh, you failed your die roll, you're going to take damage now. The DM just narrates, well, where would that damage have come from? And then you just, it's like, yeah, you attack the robot sentry, it bounces off of it ineffectively. You failed by 1 degree. Okay, a ricochet wings your ear. So not only did you not hurt the robot, but you actually accidentally rebounded your bullet back at you and it grazed you, so take a point of damage. And so whenever the characters declare that they're going to do something, they know that, well, if I fail this thing, it's going to either hurt me or create an additional complication that we also have to resolve at a lower difficulty. Like instead of one robot sentry, instead of taking damage, it could be you failed the die roll, you've now alerted other sentries that there's a problem, and another creature arrives, and the difficulty, you now have 2 problems. You have your original difficulty of 6, and now another robot joined them, so now the difficulty is 7. And it's just gotten worse for you. Or the difficulty stays a 6, but now you have this added complication of like one of them is trying to retreat to alert other people or something like that. So now you have to shut them down as a separate task, other than just fighting the initial group. And once you get through all that, it's like, well, the door is still locked. You got through the robots, but the door is locked. Picking the lock is only a difficulty of 4. So it's like, okay, great. That means you only have to roll a 12 or better. But you're going to have, as a single task, if you hit that 12, great. If you fail it, then, okay, well, you didn't open the pick. Like, it's a progression thing. Like, if it's a difficulty of 4, you need 4 degrees of success. So, like, if I roll a 12, that's 1. But if I rolled a 24, I'd pick the lock in one motion, and it would be completely open. So it's an interesting scaling system like that. Maybe I didn't explain it well, which would be a problem, because it's once you get into it, it's really easy. But maybe explaining it on the fly like this isn't so good. but punishment is built into your effort. It's not a separate thing. Like the DM, so everyone takes a turn and then the DM takes a turn. And when the DM takes a turn, it's basically either there's an obvious action that's going to be taken against the players because of what they've already been doing this round, or you like basically like roll a random encounter to see if a new complication arises someplace, like, you know, like new creatures arrive, or, you know, whatever's going on, like it starts to rain or whatever, something happens. The world updates and adds complications to what the team is doing. And if there's nothing specifically on plate already, then it's just a random encounter. Like if you're fighting robots and stuff and they've retaliated, you know, you've been fighting them and you've failed and they've retaliated and done some damage to you, but by the time the players finish their turns and it's time to roll over to the DM, if those enemies haven't been eliminated, they are going to take a turn as well. And now the team is on defense for that turn, so they're going to make their defense rolls to try to, like, here's the amount of damage that's coming at the team. Everyone make your defense rolls. Anyone that fails is going to take that degree of damage, and then I'm going to narrate what that damage is. Like if the difficulty, these robots have a difficulty of 6, everyone has to succeed on a defense check of 18. And whoever failed, let me know how badly you failed. You know, Roger succeeded, so he evades laser fire. And Claire, she failed by a degree of 5, so she's going to take 5 points of damage. John, he only failed by 1, so he just gets grazed for 1 point of damage. That's kind of how it works. And then I can have this one up like this. So in that sense, all I have to do is describe a room and list the challenges and on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is that challenge? And then provide, here's complication, and then give a list of complications that can inspire the DM to come up with bullshit along the way. And that's a very system light, like very, very easy to design for. All you have to do is make sure that your logic is in place, and then the complications and the challenges take care of themselves. I may have done a horrible job explaining it. But whatever, it's not published yet. It's still a work in progress. We're running, we're running a campaign right now, and when that finishes, we're going to, we're just gonna keep running it until it feels good. So it'll probably be another year or so before that's going to become a thing, but it's on the horizon. I'll still probably be doing mostly 5e stuff. I want to build up my Patreon with Magic the Gathering stuff. Once we get all this mana stuff built out, we'll be able to start creating character like I talked about before, translating cards into characters, magic items, monsters, and stuff like that. And that's appropriate for a Patreon. There's a number of MTG role-playing game Patreons that are set up at this point. But since it's all fan content, it all has to basically be openly available. I can't paywall any of it. But I don't do any of that stuff on my Patreon yet. It's in the works. Hey, what's up? Oh, right on, man. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So there's a big chance to make it. Yeah. Glad to have your time, my man. Thanks for being here. go. I think I can take probably that whole block and just up it a bit. And let's I like that overlapping the bar there. I'm going to do that. There. Nope, wrong button. Sacks. Get those out of the way. There we go. What is up, newcomers? Big ol' ruby. Let's see. That feels good. That feels good. So we got our money packs. We got our trade bars. We have the ruby. We have our journal. Next thing is going to be the chest. So let's clean that up. Perspective's off. So copy paste. Bring that down. Merge. Down. How's that feel? That's still off. This needs to be more like this. That's off. This is close to the horizon line, so I need to have it more like that. That's still off. Assessing. Hold on. Perspective's a bitch, y'all. This. Gotta get that angle down. I might be let me simplify my life a little bit. Let's make this a little less complicated. Let's start here. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's actually supposed to be angled further away to foreshorten the side a little bit. That's where my problem was. The side of the box was actually too camera facing. It was actually the wrong angle altogether. There we go. This is already feeling a lot better. Yeah, that already looks so much better. Copy paste, bring that up to here. Paste, drop that down here. Like that. Architecture, man, what a bitch. What a bitch. Yeah, no, wrong. Merge down, not merge visible. Thanks, though. Appreciate that. Still a little rough. See if I can straighten that out a bit. This is really a whingy detail, but can't have one-dimensional sides, you know, they have to have thickness. And a thick line will often take care of that. That's the fun thing about line art, is that it's often very inferring. Line art can fake volume by just simply adding line weight. And it's an illusion that your eye is filling in the detail of, but when you get technical, you lose that. You'll lose that that benefit of inference. Instead of letting the eye do the work for you, you're mashing out the actual lines. Like that's what like actual structural diagrams do. They eliminate any inferences because you have to be exact. Like we're actually creating this thing, so you actually need to know like what the material is, what the weight is, what its positioning is, what the angles are. They all actually have to like literally be accurate. You can't lie about it. It's not a picture. It's plans. Like we're going to build this in three-dimensional space, and if your perspective is wrong, then we're not going to be able to build this thing correctly because nothing's going to line up. So you can see I'm having a logic issue here with this corner. There. There it is. It's still sloppy, but it's not bad. This is going to be, see, this is a tight, that angle is still off. See, that angle is off in that back corner. I'm back. Hi. So we're going to drop this down. The line weight is creating an illusion of accuracy. There we go. Better. That actually is pretty good. I mean, the line art's slop, but the structure is good. Boy, oh boy. Okay, now we can try to make this lid work. That doesn't look horrible. So far, so good. So what? Message approved by Megadeth. Hey, that actually worked. Okay. We'll be able to go over this again and straighten up these lines inside that line there, but that was pretty good. That was pretty good. I'm going to add a layer to prevent chaos. Yeah, it's actually the right size. There we go. Hey, what's up? Oh, hey, Jesse. So it's all about weighting perspective. I'm no artist. So there's two types of perspective. There's isometric, and then what's the term? I guess real, for lack of a better word. And welcome to the mix, my dude. So like Path of Exile, Diablo, whatever. It has an isometric perspective. So here's your grid, like this, right? Here's your grid line, and all of these are supposed to be the same size, so that you can actually just perpetually see. Look at that. These are wrong. This is not actual isometric perspective, because the back end here that you can see from here to here is not the same as here to here. Otherwise, this line would sync up with this line. They're wrong. So when you're doing isometric perspective, you can only work. It stays proportionate with each other. I'm doing. Hold on. Tangent. I don't mind the tangent. This is not a problem for me. Hold on. What time is it? 7:50. It is actually almost time for me to go. This is a good way to conclude this. I'll be working on this. I only work for about an hour and a half in the morning before I go into my day job. But since we're here, we can take this, we can copy, we can paste, and then we bring this over here, and we merge that down. And then you can see that this line is off, so I'm going to eliminate that line. We're going to copy, we're going to copy this. Here. Merge that down. Copy, paste. Now, we can perpetually create these grids, and they'll remain consistent. That's isometric perspective. So you can tile it infinitely in an artificial plane with a fixed camera perspective that never changes. But isometric, a more real perspective, which is like the 3 points that you see, like for making a village, like if you're like doing a 2-point perspective, and then you have like your cube here that goes off to the vanishing points like that. This is more realistic perspective where your position on the page is going to change your perspective of the box. So if we were overhead, it would be like this. Here's overhead like that. You have these, and then you can have like a fisheye lens, which distorts the perspective so that it flares in the front and unnaturally recedes in the back to basically force a camera perspective, which kind of it changes the narrative of the thing. So when you're creating an object, you have to be thinking about, if we're using realistic perspective, it's not isometric, so I can't just keep them in a fixed plane with each other unless it's pretty much facing camera on. So like down here, this square here and this square here is very close to isometric perspective. But as we get to the top of the box and start looking in, we have to think about actual perspective shortening the perspective that we're looking at. So complicated shit. I can see here like this isometric perspective that we have in the box down here isn't 100% aligned with these trade bars that we've illustrated. While this journal here, let's get rid of the trade bars. If we get rid of the trade bars, we're looking at this here. The idea is to lean into isometric perspective enough to have accurate like anatomy of what the object actually is, without let's scoot that a bit. Here, yeah, that worked really well. And then let's take this, drop this here to here. There we go. Merge that down to simplify things. There. This aligns fairly well with this, but it's actually lower on the page than this is. Like if we follow this journal line, it's going to basically be there. That's our floor space, and this box that we're drawing is below on the page here. It's lower than the this corner here is lower than this journal point here. So I need to think like, is this further forward on the page towards the camera, or is it actually lower in elevation than the journal on the table? So that's a complication that needs to be resolved to make sure that it's being accurately portrayed. In this instance, the box actually needs to be higher in the page so that this line here aligns with this here, so it's on the same plane, on the same table surface. Does that make sense? It's complicated. If you just start freewheeling shit around, you're not going to be able to create a reliable. And so I have to raise up that ruby stone that we're doing. And now when we put these trade bars back into place, they look a little off. So everything has to correct on itself. And see, now you can see the trade bar here, this line here is at a different angle than this is, but that box is at the same angle as this journal is. So the trade bars are off. So now I have to skew the perspective on the fucking trade bars. Sort of. Thanks for it's sorry, I'm not necessarily the best at explaining shit. But it's a cool question, and that's why perspective is such a bitch for most artists, me included. We're going to use the skew tool here, and we're going to kick this up. Now that see, all of those perspectives are wrong. So this is not an illustration. This is a symbol. This is symbolizing bars of gold, but it's not actually realistic because they're geometrically aligned. If I was just pulling these things out of that trunk, out of that box, and dropping them here on the table, they are not going to be sitting pristine, pretty like this unless whoever did it was very OCD. In which case, they wouldn't be having these bags haphazardly strewn about either. So these trade bars are actually inaccurate and need to be corrected. And we already talked about that earlier, that these trade bars are inaccurate. I need to fix them. So now that we have the strong box and the journal properly aligned, we can go back in and correct the trade bars, but we're going to be having them all tilted and lapadoodle with each other. So they're going to have their own perspective that's going to take a hot minute for us to fucking fix. But otherwise, this is coming along pretty nicely. And we're going to have like little coins down here that are strewn about. We have the ruby that we're going to paint, and then we're going to have all the blood and the mess that are around the floor as well. Because the strong box is coming out of here. So we're going to have all this stuff, blood splatter, necrotic moss and fungus that's growing, and then the crystals and stuff that are growing inside of this environment where these people are killed. And that's where you find this stuff. So we're going to have that blood splatter here on the floor to help connect this material to where it's located in the room here. So that's the endeavor. Taking this schematic of a map and then converting it into an environmental illustration that's utilizing three-dimensional perspective to see how it sits. So that's what we're working on. So like this strong box, we'll be able to just borrow the color off of here. And then this blood split, like the floor tile we have here for like the wood grain that we have integrated in here, we'll be able to use that same color and texturing. And then the texture of the blood and the crystal mess that we have in here, like the grit, we'll be able to have that integrated as well. So that's what we're doing. We're converting this schematic into an illustration. It's, it's tricky. That's why we get paid the big bucks. So I can't get paid shit for illustrating. So instead I make books and I sell the books, and then I pay myself from the book. I compensate myself for the illustrations that I do. But alas, we're out of time for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and pump the brakes on for now. I'm going to be back in 6.5 hours to work on the Scion spell points for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 2024. They released a Scion character class for making characters. And one of the things that I love to do is converting things into spell points, and specifically the color magic system for Magic the Gathering, to take the spell points and then convert the spell points into color mana. So we take D&D and we convert the spell points, and the spell points we then convert into color mana. So we have those two steps that we take. So I convert the classes into spell points, and then from there we can add in additional levels of detail to take into account color. So I'll be doing that later on today. I am here 9 times per week. In the mornings like this, we do illustrations for whatever book we're working on. Right now it's the Eberron adventure. And then in the afternoons and evenings on the other four time periods, Mondays and Thursday nights, Tuesday and Friday lunches. And then we do playtesting on my Discord channel on Saturday. And then I take Sunday off because you need to take a break. So yeah, but this is coming along good enough for now. So we'll fix the trade bars and we'll finish the box tomorrow, and then probably start and then we'll get the blood splatter and the flooring done, and then we'll start doing color. So today's only Tuesday. Line art and color will probably start tomorrow. Detail work on Thursday and Friday. And assuming that all goes well, we'll start in on the next piece. We're going to do a forest. A Bob Ross style forest for the Carnwood section of the adventure. We're going to do that next week, either Monday or Tuesday, depending on how quickly we clip through this. So that's what we got going on. Yeah, right on, man. Be welcome to do so. Like, subscribe, bell icon, notifications. Check out all my books that are listed down below. They all have free previews. I do all the illustrations and design and writing for my books. So when you pick up one of my PDFs, it's like that's all Phil stuff. So sometimes I hire editors to help me make sure that I'm checking my shit, and sometimes I collaborate with other writers as well. But for the most part, my ideas, my writing, my books, my illustrations, my layouts, my maps. I do cartography, layout, writing. I edit for other people as well. Illustrations, graphic design. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's couture design. It's all private pieces. So I have a vision of what I want it to look like and like what I want to do, and when the rules work, the text falls in, and then the illustrations complement the text and the rules. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'm out of here. I will see y'all. Hopefully I'll see some of y'all in 6.5 hours. So see you guys later. Cheers.